Hi, I'm Daman Beatty, and I'm a bit of a history geek, so I'm really excited to be here in the home of Bruce MacDonald, a local historian and author. Bruce, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your book?
Well, I was born in Vancouver, and my dad came here in 1911, so I did grow up hearing a lot about the early history of Vancouver. And just to point about 1911, 1912, the city was only 24, 25 years old.
And where did your father come from?
I came from England, Scotland.
Okay, cool.
So I did grow up hearing about the old days and being, visiting a few older people who lived in old original houses that were basically, completely 1910, hadn't changed. So yeah, I like to point out that every decade has a different flavor to it, and the flavor of 1910 was particularly interesting because it was a huge boom time. They just invented electricity and engines, and everybody went from being like a rural farmer, like you might see in China today.
Right.
Everybody went from that to working in cities and factories, and there's tremendous increase in money and productivity, in wealth, and this it was sort of a golden decade, the 1900 to 1912, and around that time. And that my book I did Vancouver Visual History. When I came up with the idea, I knew it would take me about 10,000 hours of work. I didn't actually want to do the work. I just enjoyed creating the concept of the book, which is quite unusual.
I can actually see his book right behind the camera there.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm going to grab it. I know that the Brewery Creek area was all those breweries were there because of this creek, which is my understanding is that it ran right up that hill of Main Street, going up from First all the way to Broadway, right?
You can right up, you can see the industrial area here on False Creek. That's the mouth of Brewery Creek, and it came up right through the center of Mount Pleasant, and then went up more or less paralleling Main Street.
Yeah.
Crossed Main Street and came back this way, right at 14th and Main where the Starbucks is. And you can see Mount Pleasant then is the only community that actually grew up around a creek in Vancouver. So it's interesting that all that industry along Brewery Creek, there's now over 1,000 Limerick studios there. The very first one being the Brewery Creek Building.
Yeah, that's where our office is.
Where your office is, yes. That really neat building that everybody always noticed because it's so unusual. Well, there's a picture of it right there, actually. The guys who founded the Brewery Creek Historical Society. They're standing, Brewery Creek came right through where they're standing, and that's the Brewery Creek. Well, this is about 1985.
Yeah.
And Claude Douglas on the left and Charlie Christopherson on the right. And that building's unique in Vancouver. I mean, there's no other building that's stonework on the one level floor and brickwork above. And people always noticed it. And that's partly why they got excited and formed the Brewery Creek Historical Society. Just because it was an interesting building on Brewery Creek with an interesting history.
And they filmed a television show there, or a reality show there for a while, right?
Yeah.
With Sarah McLachlan?
Sarah McLachlan, yeah. Originally it was built by the Vancouver Brewery in 1903. It originally was the site of Thorpe Soda Water Works. This is the kind of pop or ginger beer bottle that Thorpe was producing.
Great
so
collection.
The building was built in 1903 by the Vancouver Brewery as their packing plant. They had a whole pile of buildings there, and that was just devoted to, I guess, creating up the beer. This is the old style industrial logo. This is the logo for the Vancouver Brewery.
Very illustrative, eh?
Well, they always show a giant factory with a smokestack and lots of smoke come out of it. There's about the only bottles they have. That's one Dorian and Marshtown label, and embossed bottles, and a keg from the brewery.
Oh, wow. There, no, I've seen that photo.
All that's gone. That's where the Brewery Creek Garage is. You're right behind this building.
Yeah.
This is the building on the corner, Scotia and 7th. Charles Dorian. And it shows you marketing 100 years ago.
Yeah.
This is their ad in 1899. It was actually during the Boer War. Well, Germany was on the rise. Deutschland, that means Germany. So this is their little poem they put in there. In 1899. When you feel blue because biz is bad, all the world seems raging mad. When war is humming in your ear, that's the Boer War, whatever, and the rise of Germany. Don't pine and think, but quickly drink a glass of Alexander beer. Then clouds will vanish, life seems brighter, the sorrow's gone, the burden's lighter. And Albion's sons and Deutschland's Kaiser, that's the British Empire and the German Empire. Albion's sons and Deutschland's Kaiser, their quarrels cease and live in peace, for lager beer has made them wiser. And then, of course, it says, Alexander lager beer, non-intoxicating.
Non-intoxicating.
That was back in the days of the temperance movement, where all the women were saying, you gotta do something about guys getting drunk all the time. Oh, no worry, our beer is not intoxicating. It's typical advertising, right? Just tell the people what they want to hear.
Yeah. Too funny.